Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be talking to you guys. My name is Sarah. I'm with the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival. We're a 10-day festival that's happening right now in Missoula, Montana. We have about 200 films this year that are playing, which is really exciting. And we're very, very excited to be partnering with the Inspired Classroom so that we can screen films and talk to schools all over the state like you guys. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice a little. Today we're going to be watching This Little Light of Mine, the legacy of Fannie Lou Hamer, and we have Robin Hamilton, the filmmaker, who's going to be here talking with you guys. So this is Robin.
Oh. Hi guys, how are you?
Awesome. That's a pretty powerful video, and we are fortunate enough to have Robin Hamilton with us here today. Come on in.
Hi, thank you very much. Hi guys, how are you?
Hi. Hi.
Thank you for watching the film. I'm so curious to hear what you thought about it. Can you share some of your thoughts with me? Go ahead, don't be shy. Yes.
I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting.
Okay. All right, what did you think was interesting about it?
How it showed what happened to everyone during that time, and it wasn't really covered up. They showed what truly happened.
That's
They
right.
didn't really cover up the dark side of it.
That's right. That's right. That's excellent. That's a really good answer. Anyone else?
And I thought it was just a good documentary, and I thought she did a good job at it.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for saying that. And yeah, I thought she did a really good job too, because that's why I made a film about her, because she was one of those people who was considered an underdog. Nobody really thought about her. Nobody really thought she had anything to offer. And I think she was very inspirational, at least to me, about what is possible and what you can do. Now, just out of curiosity, what did you know about the civil rights movement, or did you know anything about it? Go ahead, yes.
The civil rights movement was the movement to stop slavery.
Well, that's a good answer. You're close, because the civil rights movement, what happened when there was slavery, of course, you know that races were kept separate. And then after the Civil War, slavery was over, but they had a lot of laws that kept black people and white people and other people of color separate. And so the civil rights movement made that final push to get rid of all of that separation. So that's right. That was a layover, if you could say that, of slavery. So that's a good answer. Anyone else? Did anyone else know anything about the civil rights movement? Yes, you.
Okay, ours had to do with Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. That's very good. That's exactly it. He was one of the leaders in the movement. And Mrs. Hamer was one of the people who worked behind the scenes with him. So when she was, as you saw in the film, you saw that little picture of Martin Luther King. She was with him at the convention, and they worked together to try to make the changes with voting and voting rights for black people. Just out of curiosity, what did you take away from Mrs. Hamer's story? Was there anything that made an impact on you and your life? Anyone?
Something about it, processing it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Was there anything that Mrs. Hamer's story did for you? For example, for me, she reminded me that there are many things that I can still do, even if it seems like it's really, really difficult. So if I'm having a bad day, or I'm facing a problem or a challenge, and I think I can't do that, I see someone like Mrs. Hamer and I think, oh, if she could do that, then I think I could probably do something like that. And I was just wondering if there was anything about Mrs. Hamer's story that made you think about your own life and any challenges that you may be facing or thinking about, and if she has inspired you in any way. Oh, yes, go ahead, please.
She reminds me that you shouldn't be wallowing around your life saying how horrible your life is when it's not that bad, when people could have it worse.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's a really good point. Because if you think about it, Mrs. Hamer didn't have anything. She wasn't even allowed to go to school past the 6th grade. So think about it. Imagine if someone said, this is it. You can't go to school, you can't see your friends anymore, you can't read books anymore, and you have to work for somebody else. And she didn't let that stop her. She decided, I'm going to keep going, and that's how I'm going to make my life matter and how I'm going to help other people. So that's a really good point. Is there anything else? Did you guys have any other thoughts about the film?
It was really good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to hear that, because I worry. I know sometimes if something is black and white and it looks like it's a lot of history, it could be boring. So I was peeking and looking and watching you guys watch it. So I was very, very happy about that. So thank you. Thank you for saying that. Anything else you guys want to add?
Well, I wonder a little bit about just talking to you about a little bit about the filmmaking.
Yes.
And how you got to be, like, how did this happen? How did you get to be a filmmaker? Is that something?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Oh, thank you, Allie. Thank you for that question. Well, my background is as a journalist, as a reporter. So I worked for some TV stations, and I would basically go around asking people a lot of questions and then put their stories together for the evening news. And because it's TV, I actually got used to writing and producing for television. And so when you're a producer, you find the people you want to talk to, you find the locations where you want to shoot the interview, you find the background information, and all of these elements are the same elements that you use for putting a film together. And so when I had read about Mrs. Hamer's story when I was in school, I said, I want to do something about her, but I didn't know when. So I held on to her story for many years. And then at one point, when I was still a reporter, I happened to meet people who knew her. And I said, I should really put a story together about her while I have these people in my life. And because, I don't know if you noticed, some of them are a little bit older. Some people that I wanted to talk to had actually passed away. So I said, I need to do this now. And I decided to get the opportunity, jump on the opportunity to talk to the people I met. And I really treated it like a longer news story. So if you do like telling stories and you have a creative mind and there is a story that means a lot to you, it's very possible to be a filmmaker. I don't know if any of you think about that or if it's something that you want to do. Or even if you just have one story that you think is important, you really should consider doing that. It definitely is possible.
Yeah. I'm just curious to see if you have any questions about the process of filmmaking. And also for Robin, like if you want to share with her any of the stories that you may be working on or something that you even see in your community or in the United States that's a point of interest to you.
Just whatever your story was. I'll go with disasters with mine. Still think it.
Let me ask you, do you guys tell stories at schools? At school, do you ever have moments where you talk about, where you get to put, stories together about your life or anything like that? Do you have assignments like that?
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
But-
we made fictional stories.
Well,
Oh, you
yeah,
do?
sometimes we write ourselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Like,
we write
we've
ourselves.
only did that once.
Oh, okay,
We've only-
okay.
Well,
No.
yeah. No.
We only did-
It was a 7 and 8. 7 and 8 was the other one.
Okay. Did you like that? Did you like that process?
Yeah. I didn't remember it that much.
You can't remember it that much. Well, I say it you know, you may not remember it, and even if you do tell a story about yourself and you think it might not be that important, just remember that if you share that with someone else, you never know how that's impacting someone else. That could be what's happening to you could make an incredible impact, a positive impact on somebody else. So don't ever dismiss telling a story about yourself, because whatever challenges you're facing or things you accomplish, that can really inspire someone else. So I hope you know that. I hope you know that your stories are valuable. Anyone else? Any questions?
I have some questions for her, but I want to see if you have any questions for her. And it could be about the movie, or it could be about just in general. Yes, I see one.
Oh, yes. Yes.
How long did it take you to make this film?
Okay, so I gave myself a year to make it, but I had been meeting people over the years, so probably a long time, longer than you've been alive. But so for about 10 years when I was working, I was meeting people and taking a lot of notes, and then in 2014, I gave myself 1 year from 2014 to 2015 to make all the interviews happen, to write the whole thing, to edit it, and then to have it completed. So it was a year to actually physically do it.
Good question.
That's a good
That
question.
takes a lot. It takes a long time to get all the pieces together.
Yes.
I can imagine.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Let's go ahead. I have a question about that, but I'd love to hear what they have to say first.
Yes, go ahead. The woman in the pink, the young lady, and then the young lady in the blue. So go ahead.
What's the first step in making the movie film?
The first step, that's a good question. The first step for me was reading the book. So I read this very good book called This Little Light of Mine by Kay Mills. And that gave me a lot of ideas about how I wanted to do this story. So I read the book, and then I looked at people in the book who I wanted to talk to. And then when I found those people, I looked them up and called them and talked to them and asked them if they would be interested in working with me on this project. And so that is how it all started. So it started with the book, and the book gave me the idea to pursue it. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yes.
How, what are the steps to making it, all the steps?
Oh, that's a great question. That's an excellent question. So, again, I started with the book, and then I read the book, and then found people that I wanted to talk to. When I found those people, I made phone calls. I started going through a list of people who would talk to me, and not everybody wanted to talk to me. So when I talked to the ones who were interested in the project, I took notes and got an idea of what Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer was like. So then after that, I decided, okay, I will go to them and do an interview. I'll put an interview on camera. I'll shoot an interview. So I made travel plans and found a camera person in the state, which was Mississippi. And then I went to Mississippi. We shot the interview. And there were a couple of interviews in Mississippi, one in Tennessee, which is where Mrs. Hamer's daughter lives, and then 2 in Washington, D.C., which is where the other 2, the woman with the white hair and the woman with the curly black hair, they live in D.C. And so I made a schedule and interviewed all of them. And then after I did that, I looked at what they said in the interview and then went to the library and found film that had Mrs. Hamer's interviews from before she died. And then I sat and looked at all of the interviews that I got from everybody. And then I started to put those pieces together. So each person's sound or interview was put together. I wrote that out, and then I met with an editor, and then an editor helped me put that together. So that's the short version of what it takes to put it all together. So you have all those steps: the reading, the research, interview, writing, and then editing. I hope that's helpful. Oh, yes, go ahead.
Where did you get the old video footage? Was it like copyrighted, or did you just?
Yeah, oh, that's an excellent question. That's a very, very good, sophisticated question, because a lot of people don't think about that. So since I live in DC, there's that great resource, the Library of Congress. I don't know if you've ever, have any of you been to Washington, DC before? No?
No.
Oh, you have? Oh, okay. Okay, some of you have and some of you haven't. They have a lot of great resources. If you ever go, it's wonderful to see all the monuments. But one of the great things they have too are a lot of historical records from all over the United States. And what I did was I went to the Library of Congress, which holds a lot of those historical records, and I looked up anything about Mrs. Hamer, and I found an old television program called Like It Is. And that was a film that was housed in the Library of Congress, but it was owned by a TV station that did the interview in New York City. So it was copyrighted in New York. New York City owned it, but the Library of Congress let me watch it. It's kind of like when you check out a library book and you see who, the library lets you borrow it, but you have to actually talk to somebody else in order to get the rights to use it in a different way. So I had to contact New York City to be able to use it in my film. So yes, and I had to ask them for copyright purposes. So that's a very, very good question. And if you ever do a film in the future, that is something you have to pay attention to, because you have to ask permission, someone's permission to use their work. It's like if someone wanted to use your story, they can't just take your story and then use it as their own. They have to ask you. So that's a great question. Anyone else?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Did anyone refuse to like work with you, like when you asked them questions? Did anyone like refuse to be like talk to you about it?
Yes, that's a very, very good point. Yes, I did talk to, there was a person who knew her very well, like the other people did, and he was the person who ran her campaign, her political campaign. Do you remember the political poster that I showed in the film? It was very brief. But he worked on all of her political campaigns. And I think he was very bitter about how Mrs. Hamer was treated later in life, about how she didn't have a lot of money and she didn't have a lot of support. And I think he's still very angry about how badly people were treated in Mississippi. So I think he views anyone who comes from the outside who wants to talk about what happens as I don't want to say as a threat, but he's very resentful. So I went to him. He was one of the first people I went to, and he would not talk to me. He was very angry, and he's still very angry about what happened in Mississippi, which you can understand why. It was a terrible, terrible time. And I think he feels some people may have forgotten what happened, and he says he still lives with it every day. So he was the hardest person to talk to, because he's mad at me for something that I didn't have anything to do with, but he's, the scars are still there. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
When he told you like the story about it, did they like sugarcoat it, or did they just like give you full on detail of what happened?
No, that's, again, very good question. She's very
I know.
good. I think sometimes people don't want to tell you how bad things are. You have to ask them. So initially, I don't want to say they sugarcoated it, but they were very reserved when they were talking about it. So they would say, oh, it was a very bad time. So I would have to ask a little bit more. Well, why was it a bad time? And what was that like? And what did you feel when you were in that situation? And I think the longer you sit with somebody and you talk to them, the more honest they become. And it just takes time. Most people, they just want to have a few minutes to really warm up and think about what's happening, especially if it's something that's very, very painful. You don't want to talk about it right away because it's not on the top of your mind. You want to push it back. So that woman with the curly hair who said they beat Mrs. Hamer within an inch of her life and she had seen her, you know, I had been sitting with her for a while and talked to her for a while. And, you know, when she said these images, you try to put these images out of your mind, but they're still there. I had to talk to her for a while to get her to tell me that. So people will be honest. You just have to wait a little bit and ask. That's a good question.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like your journalism background is really helpful
Yes.
in filmmaking as
Yes.
well.
Yeah, that's a great point, Allie. Yeah, it's true. It's true. I one of the things you may want to think about when you're, if you decide to become a filmmaker, is you know, asking a lot of questions. And for me as a journalist, I'm usually pretty curious. I like, if there's someone who is interesting to me or they're doing something interesting, I like asking, oh, how did you do that? Or what was that like? And a lot of times curiosity can fuel a lot of your ideas or can fuel a conversation, can encourage people to talk more. So yes, my journalism background really helped me a lot and made this very, very enjoyable.
Wonderful. Well, we are almost out of time. Are there any last questions for Robin before we go? Or comments. You could also give her a comment.
Well, thank you so much. And like I said, I sent you guys something that has to do with the film, so I hope you get it today. I wanted to send it. I was sending it all the way from Washington, D.C., so it's probably going to come this afternoon, so keep an eye out for it, okay?
For it.
Okay. It's a little pen, so keep your eyes out for it. And there's one for each of you, okay?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. What a powerful, powerful film,
Thank
and
you.
what a great opportunity.
Thank
And
you.
thank you, students. So
Yeah,
let's take a minute
thank
and
you.
just thank everybody. here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for watching and being interested, and all your questions were outstanding. So that really means a lot to me, and I hope you all know that everything you do is important and your stories matter. And thank you. I really mean it. It meant a lot that you guys took the time to watch it. So thank you.